Good morning, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to our latest AIM Skills installment. This morning, we are going to be going over the AIM Scan utility for Dynamics GP. I am Brian Hall with AIM Technologies, and doing the presentation this morning is going to be Charles Lemaire. Charlie has been with AIM from its very founding. He is one of the best and brightest. We're looking forward to hearing from Charlie this morning. Charlie, take it away.
All right, now I got to live up to that. Okay. All right, good morning, everybody. We'll be talking today about a little utility that we put together, it might have been almost 10 years ago, I guess, for primarily or initially for the needs of one of our customers who had the desire to be able to easily and quickly scan documents into their GP system, and then also have the ability to, when needed, attach those scanned documents to other documents in the system. For instance, if they were creating customer invoices. So with that challenge, one of our other consultants and myself put our heads together and figured out a way to do it. And he did most of the coding, and I did a lot of the testing, and we've kept updating it and improving it since that time. And so I'll show you here, and let me first hit a couple of points. This is a utility that works just with GP. It works with integrations, customized windows and integrations within the GP system. We have quite a few users using it, or companies using it. We have the ability to attach the scan and or view functions on almost any window in the system that we would need. We have a lot of those already configured that we can just import into a company's environment. And then we can, of course, create other connections if those are needed in other windows in the system. So let me quickly jump in and just give you a quick understanding of how it works. And then I'll take some questions. I'm going to use just the regular payables transaction entry window to demonstrate the functionality here. It could be used in the purchasing windows, purchase order windows, receiving entry windows, literally any window in GP. We could have it added and linked and be able to have the same functionality in those windows. Just for a quick demonstration and overview, I'm going to just use the regular payables transaction entry window. And if you notice, it is a modified window. You can tell that by the dots. It's modified, and it has some customizations on it. Notice the customizations or the modifications are the scan and view button that are in the bottom left corners. So we simply use a modifier of GP, add those buttons, and then we used VBA, and we have other mechanisms now outside of VBA to be able to run the procedures that those buttons need to trigger. So the logic is for a payables document, I'll just do a quick sample for you. I'll pick one vendor in the system. I'll put in a dummy invoice number, and I don't have to have a dollar amount yet, but I'll put something in there. It can be added after the fact. And so typically somebody will enter the transaction this way with all the things that they want. And then when they're ready, they can click the scan button, and it will open this AIM scan page window. Before I click the scan button, I want to walk through some of the features and the buttons that you see on this screen. First, there are some setups that can be configured for your system. You can decide to, or pick the options to show or not show the user interface from your actual scanning machine. That's possible as well. Automatic data feed, which is inherent in most of the scanners there. Duplex scanning, front and back. Do you want them scanned in color, grayscale, or black and white? And so forth. And we can set those settings and save those settings, so those will be set every time you do a scan. Now the function buttons above here, first is just the scan. So if all you need to do is put a page or multiple pages on your desktop scanner and you want to scan those in, you simply do that and click the scan button. But before I do that, I just want to hit a couple of the other buttons. So if you potentially have already scanned something for this document and you realize you need to scan something else, that's what the merge feature allows us to do, so that you can simply pull this window back up, and instead of clicking scan, you put your paper on the scanner, you click merge, and it'll add it to the back of what was already scanned there. We also have an attach function that allows us to attach PDFs or JPEGs that already may exist, that you can then just browse out to the JPEG or to the PDF, click the attach button, and it will be attached to the GP transaction. The email function is one of the newer functions where you can grab an email document and bring that into your system. And then the append document allows you to basically pull up everything that's already been scanned. If you need to delete a page or scan additional pages in there to clean it up, you can do that. That's some of a couple of the newer functions that have been added in here in actually the last year or so. So with that, let me just do a quick scan here and show you how it'll work. And what I have an Epson GT-S50, a small desktop scanner. It scans front and back, full color. We have a lot of customers who have used that model over the years. The only requirement is that the scanner has to be Twain compatible. We have a lot of customers who have used different models as well. I've just had this one for years and it's still kicking, so I'm going to use that. So to scan the document, I actually have 2 pages, and this is nothing that would ever be put in our business operations. I just wanted to demonstrate the color functions and how those pages will look when they get scanned in. So these are actually just some ads that I found laying around my house, and I wanted to use as an example. So I'm going to go ahead and just click the scan button. And yep, it's waking up my scanner that's been dormant for about 30 minutes. There we go. So it's scanned, and we now have visible to us one page, actually 4 pages, because I had 2 pages front and back. Scroll down. We have, once this has been scanned, if everything's good, you can simply click save and the window will close and you'll be good to go. Or if you want to make edits, if something scanned in that you didn't want, you have the ability to delete individual pages or to delete all of the pages, go back to start, not scan at all, or just rescan. Also, if you accidentally put things in sideways or upside down, we have the ability to rotate the images individually. So we don't have to rescan if we make a few mistakes on the initial scanning. At this point, I'm just going to save it. Tells me they've been saved. And I'm back to the transaction window. The second button that we've added to the windows that we want to use the scan functions or the view functions on is a view button. And by clicking that view, it just opens up the documents that we scanned in a PDF. We can see them there. And I'll just close them down. So once again, so I haven't saved this invoice yet, but I'm going to go back to the scan. And notice now when I open the scan, there's this icon is blinking up here. And that's telling me that something has already been scanned. So if a user comes in here and don't remember if they scanned, if you scan a new document and with the basic scan, it'll just overwrite what was there. This is our warning that, hey, you've already got something there. And you can also view the scanned documents from that link as well, just like you can from the view button on the main transaction window. So I'm going to close that and demonstrate another function. Let me post this transaction. It's $1, Allenson Properties. No, wrong button. Post. Come on, fiscal periods. Sorry, guys. Let me get to. I could do it this way. Get my. Save my transaction to a valid date. Let's do that. All right. So that transaction has been posted. I'm going to demonstrate the other functions here. So if I want to go into the inquiry system and look for transactions for Allenson Properties, I can find that transaction that I just posted for $1 here. Open the inquiry window. And we also have the scan and view buttons on the inquiry window. So after the fact, somebody needs to see those documents. You can see them from inquiry. And if you want to, close the right button here. If you would need to, you could also rescan or scan for the first time the documents. So you have the option of scanning everything as your transaction entries are going in, or if you're in a rush, you can't do it, you need to get the transactions out, you can actually come back in after they've been posted and scan them and attach them there. Again, the scan and view buttons are optional on any window. We have control of that to add them when needed to any windows that are needed. So if you don't want anyone scanning things after they've been posted, we would not put that button on that window for you. It's all under at your control and how you want the options to function. So at that point, well, one other point I want to make, let me pull it back up and pull the scan button up for you. Again, notice it's telling us we've already got something scanned there. There is, notice that the path that's being shown here. In the setups for the scan system, we define in the setup windows right here where your documents are going to be saved on your network. And it can be anywhere on your network that's accessible. And then as part of our configuration, we will determine or set up the naming of those documents with whatever rules that you want to enforce. So notice in this example here, it's going to the to folder, which is the ID of the company database, purchasing, and then the payables section under purchasing. And then it's just storing this number, which in this case is actually the voucher number of the accounts payable transaction. In a test environment, that's all I used because that was a unique identifier. However, what we found in practice is most customers would love to have certain parts or certain sections of the scan document system available to other users who are not GP users possibly. So what we typically will do is change the naming convention, and as an example for a payables transaction, we'll usually put in the name of that document the vendor ID or the vendor name, the actual invoice number, not just the voucher number. In some cases, there can be other fields that people would like to search by. So we have the ability to configure that document number or document name so that those scanned documents can be searched and found on your network by people who have permission to those folders without them logging into GP. I just wanted to demonstrate that for you here. And the setups are as simple as setting up where our default path will be. These other setups are one-time defaults, one-time setups that will default for the other users. But we have the ability to set your PDF and JPEG paths to any location. Now notice we have an option here to disable JPEG documents. When we scan, we do scan by default and create a PDF and a JPEG image of that document. The purpose is when if and when we need to attach those documents to other invoices or other documents in the system, the JPEG image is a lot easier for us to incorporate into that process. In this test environment, unfortunately, I don't have the attachment or a sample invoice with the attachments on there, but I can assure you that it works very well. We use the forms printer from Accountable. We create SQL reporting services invoices, full color, full graphics, with the ability to have really as many attachments to that invoice as you need. I'm going to bring up one more point or suggestion of how some of our customers use the system. I'll use the sales transaction entry window as an example. We have a couple of customers who scan backup documents related to their sales transactions. In some cases, they may want to scan items and have them attached to this GP document for historical purposes, but they don't want the customer to see that. So we've done this in a couple of environments. We just create different scan options for internal documents versus external documents. So in this case, with this type of invoice format, if you scan things to internal, they will go into the network, identified as internal documents. When we print the invoice, those will not be included on the invoice. External documents, we scan via the scan button for external documents. And when the invoice gets generated, the scanned documents are included with the invoice as addendums behind the original invoice document. If anybody has any desire to see that or additional questions about that after this session, get in touch with us and I can get into another environment and demonstrate that for you. But it definitely works well and saves a lot of time for customers who need to do that. At this point, I'll open up the floor for questions. If you have any specific questions or examples you'd like to see, let us know.
Charlie, we've actually got a few questions over here in chat.
Okay.
How long has this function been in place? You mentioned about 10 years. Is that correct?
Yes, it's been about 10 years.
Do you have an estimate of how many people are running this currently?
We probably have between 15 and 20 customers that are using it. I don't remember the exact number. I'd have to look at the list.
Now, here's a hard question for you. Do you think this could replace hard copies for audit purposes?
I think that's being done in environments already, because I do know that several of our customers, they'll scan those documents in. And now in those environments, of course, they've got redundancy, they've got backups for their file locations and so forth. So they know those are going to be recoverable. They have redundancy and so forth. But I know a lot of them will scan all their AP documents and then shred them. So for audit purposes, I know they are doing it that way. I think it would probably be acceptable in a digital age that we have here. I haven't heard anybody say that it hasn't been accepted.
Very good, thanks. How is the naming convention defined for applications?
The document naming?
For the documents that are scanned.
We do that as part of the configuration. In the core system and the initial systems, it's part of the VBA configuration or customizations that we have already built, that we can import in a new environment. But those are all editable as part of the VBA that's built into GP. Now, for some environments, in the people in GP 2018, the latest versions, and in some environments where VBA doesn't work anymore because of some of the server operating systems and so forth that are conflicting, we have modified or converted those customizations or those configurations that we already have for VBA. Those have been converted to some editable DLLs that can be installed for customers who cannot use VBA.
All right. And then to the rest of you, if you have questions, feel free to type them into chat. We'll also take everyone off mute here in a moment if you've got questions. One last one, Charlie, are there additional considerations when upgrading GP due to this module?
Actually not. The only thing related to the upgrade is the modified forms and modified windows that are out there, which is a normal step in the upgrade process already. Actually, I've had several customer environments where they've upgraded, 2 or 3 versions up from where they started, and we had to change nothing at all about the scan system. We use the same version. We just simply, if we move GP into a different folder, set of folders on the network or on the computers, we just move or copy the scan application folders and files to that same location. But there's not an upgrade process per se. It works with the subsequent versions.
Charlie, how does this differ from using the attach function in GP?
Well, one of the reasons we created this was because the attach function at that time, number one, would not work with most remote desktop environments for some technical reasons. And honestly, I have not used the attach or tried to use the attach functions in probably 8 or 9 years because all my customers who are doing attachments are doing this or using this function. Here's one big difference from using the attach function. I'll talk about 2 differences. With the attach function with GP, all of your scan documents are being saved in the GP database, in your company databases, which makes your databases grow very large. In addition, because they're in the database, they're not accessible to people who are not GP users. The second thing is the documents that might be attached using the GP attach function. I don't think those documents can be attached in the same way to an invoice like our forms printer documents are attached. Like I said, I haven't had much experience with the attach functions in several years, but I know one of the biggest selling points is that a lot of people want those scanned documents to be available to other people in their environment, not just GP users, and they are not available when scanned with the attached version of GP.
Okay. So at the end of the day, are there any limitations on the number of documents, or are you simply limited by disk space?
Disk space is the only limit. Literally have a customer, actually the customer that we initially wrote this for, I remember them having a phone bill or utility bill, something like that, was probably 40 pages front and back. They pop it on their scanner, let them scan in, attach them, and then they would get rid of the utility bill.
Wow. All right. Any other questions for Charlie? And Debbie, we appreciate the kind comments there in chat. Any other questions or comments? All right. I think we're in good shape. Charlie, thank you for doing the demo. I want to thank everyone for being with us here today. If you've got any questions at all regarding the AIM-Scan utility, reach out to your consultant, drop us an email at sales@aim-technologies.com, and we'll be glad to answer your questions. Thanks, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.